Back when I was doing football broadcast, Paul Catalina, in the Tyler area for KTBB Radio, I did elite football, and of course they ran a great run under Mike Owens, eventually won a state championship. But I used to put together, like we did the highlights, and they had a disc. I'd get it from this guy. And then I would speak at pep rallies, and the word then, this is in the late 90s, early 2000s, with music like we just heard, was crunk.
Crunk?
And whenever I said that, the pep rallies would go absolutely nuts. I never understood it, but as long as they were happy, then I was happy. Crunk.
Yes, I've heard the word crunk before.
I bet 85% of our audience.
I don't think I've ever been, like, I've tried. I wish I was crunk, but it's just, I can't.
Crunk means kind of like
dope. I'm just not
energetic.
Like, no one has ever told me.
Extremely excited.
Paul, you're crunk.
No.
It's not, look, and here's the thing. I'm not mad about it. I'm sad a little. I'd like to get crunk.
No one's ever called you.
No.
No one's ever said you've
You
made
know what?
them crunk.
Here's the deal. When that word got maybe popular, I was probably past the phase in my life where I was youthful enough to be crunk.
It was right after Florida State won a national title in 99. Yep.
Back then, maybe.
All right. So, good afternoon. It's Paul Catalina. It's me, David Smoak, 365 Sports, Brandon Rowe, running the mothership. Andrew Valade and Garrett Ross also heavily involved. Craig is out today. And we have a lot to get to, including a couple of stories that kind of came down as the day was getting past lunch towards us. Starting, by the way, good afternoon, 365 Sports. We appreciate your time. The AAC Commissioner, Tim Pernetti, who's a part of those group of six conferences, and probably among all of those conferences, the strongest group of six. Of course, everything can be debatable. May not be there very long. Ross Dellinger, this is what he does with the news that he is now, Tim Pernetti, the finalist for the National Football League Players Association Executive Director's position. That's a big deal and gets paid pretty good money. Now, there's a lot of politics, but being a part of the NFL, and so the American Athletic Conference looks as if they haven't lost him. They're very well aware of what is going on. In fact, there was a statement from East Carolina President Philip Rogers about his candidacy and said that the American Conference continues to be a deep pool of talented members of institutions, ADs, etc., and leadership that biggest brands in and beyond college athletics work to recruit. And so Tim Pernetti is a finalist. And you don't usually get the finalist usually means when they want to take that to a vote.
There's three finalists. The other two, I believe, one of them was working with the NFLPA and one of them has worked with the NFLPA or in the NFL stratosphere before. Tim Pernetti is a really, really, really smart guy. And he's a really, really good conference commissioner and has done a very good job in probably not the best time to be the AAC commissioner, right? Do you want to be the AAC commissioner and keep fighting this uphill battle, or do you want to be the executive director of the NFLPA and fight a completely different uphill battle, albeit with less people in the way?
Most of the responses to it depends on who you looked at when it came to his name being part of as a finalist. Fans of the AAC teams of the conference or whatever saying that might be a better match for him and that maybe they could bring somebody in who's a little bit more aggressive. The AAC, if you do your Power Four, and Notre Dame's, of course, their own conference, and then you were to ask me, honestly, what's the next best conference? I would say the American Athletic Conference, and it's been rated a couple of different times. So Tim Pernetti, doesn't mean he'll get it, but that's something to watch that could change the conference commissioner for the AAC.
Yeah, and I think that if he gets offered this job, he's a finalist. If he gets offered the job, he'll take it. Like, so if Tim Pernetti is still the AAC conference commissioner after this dust settles, it means they went in another direction, not that he didn't want it.
Right.
Because if you've let yourself come down to the final three, you clearly want the job.
No, absolutely.
Unless he gets to that final interview and like, oh, by the way, we're adding this part to the job that we didn't tell you about before. We wanted to get you to this point. And he's like, no, I'll just go deal with the ever-changing landscape of major college athletics.
By the way, yes, unless all of a sudden the Big Ten and the SEC call and go, hey, you know all that stuff, we want to own the whole world. Well, not really. We want to give the AAC, it's not the American Conference. We want to give you guys some more of the pie to the college football playoff. Then he's accomplished everything he should leave and move on. Now, how about this nugget? I always wondered about this, and I wasn't sure what states. I don't have this story other than the Mississippi House passed a no tax on NIL money bill, which, of course, Ole Miss and Mississippi State have to love that. And, I guess you can. But if you're a firefighter or you're somebody that worked for the state of Mississippi, even if you bleed Ole Miss Rebels or you do bleed what's going on with Mississippi State and Jeff Levy, are you happy about this? I think it's great for the schools and NIL for the players. They don't get taxed. I wish they'd do that for us who are broadcasters and podcasters, but this is an advantage if you're not going to get taxed.
Okay, there's two things that popped up in my head when this happened. One, every other state in the South is going to try to do the same thing. Two, I think that it's stupid. Well, three, I think they should get taxed on it. I absolutely think they should get taxed on it. I think it's insane that you would not get taxed on this amount of money when everybody else is going to get taxed. But if you're not an employee, then should you get taxed on something? I don't know, like, it's weird. You're trying to do all these different things. Third, the most common excuse I heard from, and I don't mean to lump you in, Smokey, but it was from people mostly from your generation, where they're like, well, if you get paid, you got to see the tax man. And what I would say is, okay, I'm getting paid. So I get paid and the government gets paid. I would rather be paid and have to share with the government than not be paid at all.
Yeah. No.
So whatever I get is more than zero, even if I'm not happy with the share that Uncle Sam gets. That is always at least negotiable on the government side, although not fun to discuss.
One of the things, and I'll tell you this, starting in April, I will receive my first Social Security check, which is something that I paid into the system, just like Medicare, which I started back in May of 2024. It's pretty cool, but I paid for that. I also paid into Social Security, among other things. I will get my first Social Security check. It's a nice chunk. It's taxed, though. My tax guy, Paul Hicks, who does a great job, said that, hey, take out about 23 to 25% of it, put it in a savings account, because at some point you're going to get taxed, just like estimated taxes on my as a self-employed person that I am with 365 Sports. But there is at least the discussion about not paying taxes if you get Social Security. And I love that one. So how can I complain if the NIL in Mississippi does the same thing?
I
wonder if the Social Security money have already been taxed on that anyway.
No matter what. Look, if they're not going to have the state tax, because it would be the state tax, it's not going to be the federal tax, because Mississippi has no power over that. If the states had power to tell the federal government not to tax anything, there would be at least 30 states that were like, we're not going to tax, we're not going to pay into the federal government now. But they do. So this is just the state income tax.
Yep.
Which
Texas, we don't have.
We don't have it in Texas. They don't have it in Florida. They don't have it in several other states. So I don't know.
Give me some feedback for us, Paul and I, in the chat room. What are your thoughts about it?
I guess good for them, I guess.
It doesn't, like, if they were to pass that in Texas, they wouldn't need to. Like you said, there is no state income tax on earnings in this great state.
But I mean, if, again, there's state income tax for firefighters and cops and teachers and all the professors at the university, the janitors at the university, the maintenance guys at the university, the cops at the university, the president of the university, the athletic director of the university, the coaches at the university. I mean, am I running out of people? The students who work at the university in doing tour guides or working in the admissions office or whatever student jobs you have, even a work study, those all pay taxes.
And they're also paying, a lot of them, a student fee to increase the money for
that's where, look, I am just, when it comes to the end of the day, and then the chat room calls me Comrade Catalina.
Actually, Kim Coulter, for once, I agree with Paul.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's just not like, I'm just about fairness. And when, especially, Trinidad Chambliss is going to be making $3 to $6 million this year playing quarterback at Ole Miss, right? Okay, all right, so I'm going to say the intramural ref that makes $14 an hour is not going to clear as much because there's no way he can intramural ref that much at Ole Miss. That was my job in college. That's why I'm using that.
I did intramurals.
But yeah, so
that was part of me getting a physical education minor.
Yeah, but I was a ref, and so I'm sure that.
How much did you get? $20?
It was $10 an hour for a supervisor.
Yeah.
It was in the late '90s, early 2000s. So again, inflation hadn't run rampant quite as yet. But that kid who's going to school, participating, doing the same kind of thing. And yes, intramurals does not take in as much money. There's no NIL for that. But he still has to pay taxes on his $10 to $20 an hour gig that is only part-time. He's only going to do it 15 hours a week.
Does this, let's get, okay.
So that's just not fair.
I did intramurals too, and I think it was like $20 for a day. You went out to the fields. And I tell you what, there's nothing that is, that you could pay to make coach officiating Pop Warner football. Nothing. Nothing. I at times, I never was like run off the fields to my car, but man, he's holding. It's great. And especially if it's like baseball or softball as an umpire, which I used to love to do that. I had fun with the kids. I didn't hear the moms and dads. I'll screw them.
I had an absolute blast all the time, doing that job, but I never of course at that point, it was just like you got a job, you pay taxes, and you get that thing, and you do the math in your head. Especially happens when you're younger. You don't really realize how much they take out. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, I'm getting this much a week, and then you get the check, and you're like, what the hell, man?
Yep.
And then you look at it, and there's a lot to be desired. So I just don't think that a little bit of tax on a $6 million NIL payment is that big of a deal.
I wonder if it's going to help them get an extra player or two. Does it really matter? They still, again, as you mentioned, they have to claim it. And you wonder about how many players are doing that, if their agents are doing it right and or their whoever is consulting them. Then you have this story, just a horrible story about Boulder, Colorado. Dominique Ponder, quarterback at Colorado. This is Deion Sanders who posted this. Please comfort the Ponder family, friends and loved ones. Dom was one of my favorites. He was loved, respected, and born leader. Let's pray for all that knew him, had the opportunity to be in his presence. Lord, you're receiving a good one. Comfort us, Lord. Comfort us, Coach Prime. He was killed in a single automobile accident.
God, that's terrible.
Yep.
It's just terrible.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, based on a traffic accident, a single car, single person accident. Now, here's the hard. This is they started spring football today. This was, I guess, either late Saturday or Sunday. They started working out today, and here is a note about. And by the way, it was a single car vehicle crash. I mentioned it was, I think, it lost control and was not stopped by any kind of barriers. Colorado still expected to conduct their first football practice this morning. That's today. Can't expect to be the sharpest practice ever. Probably good for the team to be able to just come together, support each other, and mentioned in a press release that the athletic department making counseling and resources available to student athletes, staff to assist them during this time of unimaginable loss. And on top of that, Brendan Marion, the Colorado offensive coordinator, had this statement to make about how much Ponder meant and that he always worked with certain players on the team, and how much, of course, obviously, that he will be missed. Speaking of one, there it is. There's Brendan Marion right there. He had an impact on everybody. His energy was contagious.
Okay, you have this next story wrong, and I tried to tell you. This person is not dead.
I didn't mention it.
Okay, I just want you to, before you do.
So what is it? Okay.
So
somebody
like
Gene Stallings rumor over the weekend
went online and posted.
Don't say it.
No, I mean I have to say. People may know now that he's 84 years old. I've got a tweet in response to this. That former legendary Florida State defensive coordinator Mickey Andrews, who I used to watch run past my house.
Yep.
Every single day, he ran past my house.
Part of the Bobby Bowden dynasty.
Yes, he ran past my house every single day. 84 years old. He is still alive and kicking. Somebody said that he was dead, and a bunch of his former players called his house And then so he had to put out on social media that he is 84, proud of it, and alive and kicking. So he is still thankfully with us, but he is very much alive.
There were a couple of stories about legendary coaches in college football. That's one of them. Thank God, Paul, that was negated.
I saw it, and then I was like, "Oh man, that's a bummer." And he's 84. It's not a surprise.
You had told me he was at the end.
Yeah, and I knew he had some. Like he had a major surgery a couple years ago. So I thought, okay, well, whatever. He also opened a barbecue restaurant after he retired. Well, but then after he retired. It was quite good for Florida barbecue, I got to say. But I went and looked, and I could only find this one guy saying it. And then on Google, it just had died 2026, which means that no one can confirm that he was dead. And they just had that one report. And then this morning I was like, I don't think so. I saw Corey Fuller, who's a former safety, and several other players saying, like, I just talked to the guy. He's alive. So
that's good. No, he was a fiery dude, man.
Yeah.
Bobby Bowden was the king. He was the patriarch of Florida State football. Took him from almost like giving up the sport to winning national titles. And one of my favorite ever personalities. Interviewed him a couple of different times, including, I remember, it was in the year that David Warren, the great number one all-time, number one recruit from John Tyler High School, that would have been in 95 or 6, and he committed to Florida State. Bobby came on the show when I was doing talk radio in Tyler, and he was, of course, effusive with his excitement.
I interviewed him, it was about a year before we left the radio station. And it was for his what would be his final book that he wrote. He wrote several. And we had it was about a 35, 40-minute interview, of which we could have gone longer if there was not a show waiting outside to come in and do live. I was like, you guys can take the day off. I'm going to have a 6-hour conversation with my hero here.
No.
But we did talk about Mickey Andrews in that and how sometimes getting new coordinators in helps you because it helps you change things. But Mickey was such an elite defensive coordinator for so long, you didn't want to lose Mickey Andrews at all because he was one of the only guys who could call the defense. He kind of had that Tom Landry mind with the defense where you would be like, okay, like if he had to be out, let's say he got the flu and couldn't talk and couldn't call the game and was stuck home and quarantined. Nobody else could have called the defense that way because he was the only one who could and saw it that way. So glad that he's still kicking. Nobody could assault a piece of gum like Mickey Andrews if you watched on the sidelines. I mean, he was just like chomping on that thing.
Yeah, no, he was a fiery dude, man. And for 26 years at Florida State with Bobby Bowden.
If there was a Joe Avisano award for sideline demeanor, he would certainly been a candidate every year.
He was on camera a lot.
Yeah.
So Greg Sankey of the SEC, all of a sudden, I don't know about all of a sudden, maybe he's always felt this way, but the commissioner of the SEC saying that he wants to get to a point where there's a one-time transfer policy. Here's the problem. That's from Dick Weiss. We've had Dick on this show. Here's the issue. Here's a couple of rebuttals. This from David Ridpath, who we've had on the show from the Drake Group. Funny thing, Sankey and others vigorously push back on proposals like this from the Drake Group for 2+ decades. Now he's found religion. With a question mark, of course. It's too late, Greg, and you never wanted academics first. He was there when I spoke to the Knight Commission in the early 2000s. And then our buddy, Darren Heitner, Craig's favorite agent, attorney, and don't read that big image, but he goes, there's a small problem for Greg Sankey called Ohio versus NCAA. A federal court already ruled the NCAA cannot apply the one-time transfer rule. You can't wish antitrust law away. Any national standard will see you back in court fast.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. All these things have happened, but Sankey's not been involved in them, right? He could just continue to go out and win. That's or perceive that he's winning. He had to admit that the Big Ten was the current better conference, and I'm sure, well, no, that was Paul Feinbaum. But they had to kind of.
Who said he would leave the country, and he's still right in the middle of where he was in the first place. Yeah.
That's going to happen when the ACC wins another title of the Big 12. But, Greg Sankey says this, and it's I think the one-time transfer rule would be kind of good overall. I think that if you had it, it would be kind of good. The problem is that it was abused. It would be abused by the schools. And there was the whole thing. I remember Bo Ryan, who was the basketball coach at Wisconsin. He put this whole list together of schools that his players, when they would allow them to transfer, could not transfer to. And in the conference that you're going to play is one thing. That's kind of a reasonable request, at least on the surface of it. But he added like 10 other schools that they might see in the NCAA tournament. So like if you wanted to go to Duke, no, you can't go to Duke. You can go to NC State, but you can't go to Duke.
Right.
And it was so arbitrary and ridiculous. And his reasoning for it is, well, what if we see him in the NCAA tournament? And to me, that's just such an arbitrary thing. So you're not going to let this kid go and play at a place that he wants to go play at, because there's a chance, infinitesimal or solid, depending on what your draw is, that you might see this team one time.
Yeah,
and
but I could see if a guy, I could see while you could get away with it back before everything became a lawsuit. I could remember the SEC had an in-conference transfer rule.
That one makes a little bit of sense to me, because you're at least trying to protect from your conference poaching each other's players. But even then, it's a pretty thin rule, because the problem is they can say, well, I don't want this kid to transfer inside the SEC. But that's only 50% of the issue. The other 50% is that there's kids who could be at Tennessee and Josh Heupel doesn't have a spot for them anymore and says, look, you need to go get in the transfer portal. Oh, by the way, I know that Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Texas A&M are all interested in you, but we don't want you to go there, so you have to go find somewhere else. Well, now you're limiting the options of somebody you didn't even want.
Yep. Yeah. And again, you're not allowing somebody to go do what they want to do. Here's from Jose. I don't know, Z-E-A-Y. Is it Josiah? Without employee status, one-time transfer rule could be a pipe dream. Also, students will always be able to unenroll from a school and then enroll at a different school, which we've seen happen. Even, I believe, I'm not so sure if that's what Mensa did. Eventually, there was a settlement with Duke and Mensa. The NFL Combine wrapped up over the weekend. I'm mad at myself, and I'll say this, and this is not one of those, oh, yeah, I bet you did. When we were discussing that list of the top quarterbacks that were coming back, and then we also discussed some of the quarterbacks that were headed to the NFL and would be at the Combine. And remember, this class has been discussed as, by a lot of the analysts, as, you have Mendoza, you might have, Ty Simpson, and maybe Nussmeier, who, of course, had a not a very good year.
He had several injuries, though, throughout the year.
But there's really, this is not the class. If you need a quarterback, and, of course, that means there'll be 3 guys that will end up in the Hall of Fame. Taylon Green, I did not mention him. I'm pissed at myself because I had his name written down from Arkansas, because he's just such a good-looking athlete. But is he Anthony Richardson or is he somebody else? Taylon Green went off. The 40 time, a 4.36, vertical jump, first all-time among quarterbacks. The broad jump, 11.2, first all-time NFL Combine history among all quarterbacks who have been at the Combine. Now, is he a Combine freak? He's got a gun. He can run. I've seen him. But is he a pro prospect? Does this help him?
If you were in the 5th round and wanted a developmental quarterback and had, say you're one of those, I don't think a team that has 7 draft picks or less is going to draft somebody like Taylon Green. Because if you have, say, the Cowboys, who don't need a quarterback anyway, but they say you have 7 picks or something like that, you're probably not going to use one of those 7 picks on a guy you're not really sure, right? But you like his athleticism. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that when you have limited picks in a season, that all of them are going to be people who could play and contribute for you pretty much right away. You don't have a lot of experimentation in that. There's no Rico Gathers basketball player, tight end kind of a thing in that one, right? But if you're a team that has, say, 12 to 15 draft picks and
a compensatory
pick or 2, and you're in the late fifth round, early 6th, then you're like, okay, who's the best? Let's take somebody who's just a great athlete that we think that we can coach up. And look, with all these things, it doesn't mean he has to be a quarterback eventually, but I would love to see what he could do if you trained him up and taught him how to be. So if I'm the Rams, if I'm they have a bunch of draft picks. If I'm somebody like,
They also have a guy that seems to do pretty well with being able to mold quarterbacks.
But if I'm the 49ers and I'm likely going to trade away Mac Jones and I have some draft picks, I might take a look at Taylor Green and put him on my roster and say, all right, well, what can we see from this guy? Let's see how he does in training camp. Let's keep him on the practice squad for a little while and see how he develops. And let's see if the fact that he, in his 2 years at Arkansas had, Bobby Petrino got a lot out of him.
So did Boise State.
And so did Boise State. No. I think maybe he might be dropping in the draft a little bit because, Arkansas wasn't spectacular, but this is someone who I think a third-day pick. I wouldn't be mad at my team if they picked him because he's that athletic.
His touchdown to ratio interceptions 59 to 35 is a little bit intriguing. He can run, he can fly. Had over 2,400 yards rushing. There was a game, I forgot who was against, and I was like one of those highlights that pops up and he like at the 10, 15-yard line. And he just took it, went off like you saw, like see Little League or Popwood, or, they just go because they're bigger, better, faster, stronger, and went like 85 yards untouched.
My personal TD to interception ratio, if you're 3-1 or better, and some people are 4 or 5-1 because they're just that good. If you're 3-1 or better, I'm intrigued by you. If you are 2.5-1 or better, I want to see, I want to look at, okay, who are the receivers you're throwing to? What was your offensive line like? Were you the whole running game? So I think he kind of falls in that category of, and look, I put Josh Hoover in that category right now of, all right, well, you didn't have a running game. You in close games, if you needed 3 yards, you're going to have to throw it. Well, they all knew that, so because you weren't going to be able to run it. So what did you do in those moments? Like Taylor Green to me is in that category of, all right, let's cut this guy a break with his athleticism and the fact that his team for the last couple of years in Arkansas has been below average.
Yeah, here's another young man that we have had on this show, Sawyer Robertson at the Combine, Baylor's quarterback. He had it depends on who you talk to. One of the concerns about last year, despite, again, another losing season for Dave Aranda, was he didn't run much. And I remember asking him in a post-game of a press conference after a game, has anyone told you not to run? And I was told no one did. I don't think Sawyer Robertson's the kind of kid, no matter what anyone else was telling him, young man, that was going to I'm just going to protect myself. Now, maybe he was. I don't think he was. By the way, Dave Wilson at ESPN wrote a spectacular article about him today on ESPN.com. 31 touchdowns to 12 picks, 28-8 the year before that. Baylor wasn't very good. The 24 team, he was fantastic, but it just never seemed to, just like a lot of things the last 4 or 5 years for Baylor, 3 or 4 years for Baylor. But he had a hell of a camp, ran well. One of the things I saw reactions to the 40, okay, but then why didn't he take off when he could have during games last year, right?
Well, I think he's a solid 4th-round pick to me. I would take Sawyer Robertson. I think the whole body of work says 4th-round pick to me. Maybe even late 3rd if you really feel confident in his workout. But this is a guy who should be on an NFL roster next year. Learning NFL systems he's got the skill set to be an NFL quarterback. He really does. And maybe he's not as developed as he's going to be, but okay, let's talk about Sam Darnold. Let's talk about Geno Smith and guys who developed over time. Now, those were much higher draft picks than that, but you can. There's no rule that you have to be drafted in a certain spot to be effective, and I think he's got tools that could allow him to be that, and we'll see.
All right, Baron Morton. I don't know if he's ever appreciated at Tech. Took a beating, got beat up, missed games. Unfortunately, it was just part of his career. But, man, to me, he's fun to watch. Perfect quarterback in the old system of what Tech did, even now. But he, again, remember, was having injuries. Bobby Stroup, one who has trained a lot of NFL and other athletes around the country, by the way, who is the one that trains Patrick Mahomes. I'm not bringing up Patrick Mahomes because of Baron Morton. I'm just saying this guy does amazing training with a lot of different athletes, no matter what sport. He threw a 61-mile-per-hour pass velocity at the NFL Combine. Now, I looked at this, I'm like, who gives a damn? I mean, although if you can throw it, you got a gun, like Aikman had a rifle, right? And some did not. Ranks him 1 or 2 all-time, depending on which list you look at, team readings, guns in the stands, NFL privately, but undoubtedly top 1 or 2 all-time with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes as an all-time when they were 62 miles per hour.
Wow. I wonder what that compares to like a fastball.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you know how they say like the rise
easier to hit, you think.
rise ball in softball is
Bigger.
essentially equivalent to like a 97 mile an hour fastball, even though you'll see it's only because it's closer. It doesn't get that far. It doesn't go as many feet because the circle's closer than the mound. So I wonder what that is.
I don't know. I'll ask Bobby. I'll get Bobby because we've had him on a couple of different times.
So if I'm throwing Baron Morton out in the hill to get me 3 outs, what can I expect?
Are you going to throw a fastball with a ball, or are you going to throw a football?
Yeah, I mean he's going to throw a baseball. Like I want to know. Like I don't care. Like
would that be 98 miles an hour?
Let's assume he can get it there. In the strike zone. How fast is that going?
I'll check with him. I'll text him during the break.
Because I can bet you that Patrick Mahomes was in the 90s.
Yeah, but Mahomes has a gun.
Yeah.
But he's also then become a quarterback. It's like a guy who throws 99 coming out of the minor leagues and he walks everybody or hits everybody or he strikes out 10 but walks 8. You also, at the quarterback position, you need to learn how to have touch, et cetera, which Mahomes does. Baron Morton was a heck of a player. Unfortunately, I don't think he was ever appreciated enough by not everybody, but by enough fans.
I think Tech fans appreciated it enough. I think that he left a little something on the table when it came to with their goals or what they wanted, and he was almost there, and that's kind of frustrating. When you're a fan, you can see the rest of the team doing really well because the difference in that game, in the playoff game against Oregon, neither offense was playing well, but Dante Moore can take over a game for a series or two, and Baron Morton just didn't have that yet.
A couple of feedback. Baron just couldn't run well enough. Somebody said, my God, that's not a gun, that's a cannon. Here's another one. Let's see here. That's just some other off the cuff. Didn't Brett Favre couldn't he hum it? Yep, he could. So let's break here. Brandon Rowe running the mothership, Andrew Valade and Garrett Ross also very much involved in what we do. We appreciate the sponsors, and of course we appreciate you. We're going to come back with basketball. We hit the last week of men's basketball's regular season. The women start postseason. All of that. March Madness is here. We'll come back and look at that. And also, with the weekend of the Big 12, what did it produce? And, well, who's going to win that regular season championship with a trend in the otherwise pretty damn deep and good Big 12 conference? This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Want to be, he can help you get there. Need to be, well, he can help you because you want to get there. And then used to be means as you get older, your testosterone level, your T level, can drop. It's part of father time. Not everybody. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It could be just your energy. You're lethargic. It could be your sleep habits aren't the same. Could be your eating habit. It could be your sex drive and or performance or both. So, could that be you? Dr. Kent Petty, go to pennycliniclowt.com, pennycliniclowt.com. Tell them I sent you. Tell them that maybe some of those are symptoms you're dealing with. They will get back in touch with you. They will set you up to get your blood work. They will take care of it, get the result, and Dr. Petty will then look at your T level, and if it's too low, put you in a program or give you the option so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at pennycliniclowt.com.
Hemi is back, and it's Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $10,000 off or 0% financing, plus the best truck warranty in America at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by, let's be friends.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
We come to you
This
live.
is 365
That's
Sports.
Okay, that's $1. The wallet is in my laptop bag for those of you who want to
You know
walk
what?
in and not
Here's the thing.
check secure. No, it's $1.
Here's the thing.
Because-
Well, I'm going to give you a grace period.
No,
It
you're
starts
not.
tomorrow.
No, accountability.
Okay.
Accountability. So I said that if we come back from a break, we didn't use those for a while. We really didn't, and that's on me. So it's $1. And everybody who's in the chat right now has to match.
But here's the thing. Even when we did use them every day, you still kind of did it sometimes.
Yeah, I know, but it got me. Okay, this, put it up, Brandon, is March. The month moved to March 1st on Sunday, and it's March the 2nd. And so what does that mean? It is March Madness month, and there are 4 schools. Now look at the schools they used. Arizona, Duke, Iowa State got beat over the weekend by Tech, and Michigan, who lost their point guard. Those are the 4 they used. It's just a graphic. Don't take it personally if it's not your school. But it is. Postseason tournaments for the men will start. Well, some will start, but they'll get all full throttle into next week. The women start this week too. And the next thing you know, before you know it, Selection Sunday and the tournament. So, how about this? The Big 12 is known for being as good a basketball conference, if not the best, in America. And has been now for, you look at Ken Palm and all the other analytical stuff. But the last 3 years, Brandon, please put up the last 3 Big 12, well, that's not it. Men's basketball champions. There we go. Tell me something interesting about this Big 12. Now, Arizona has clinched a tie with the win they had over the weekend against KU. But they are at least co-champions of the regular season. Houston won it in 24 and 25. Explain that to me, Paul, for a Big 12 conference loaded, even before those schools were in phase 1 or phase 2 of realignment. What does that say?
That the new teams, the new teams they brought in
are better than they're just as good, if not better, and have just strengthened it even more.
Yeah, I would. The SEC has been fortunate for the most part that the new teams they brought in, even though they've made the playoff or whatever, haven't in football dominated the league just outright.
Texas played in the SEC championship, though, right?
But I would say, where all of a sudden they come in and they just own the league. I wouldn't say that Texas or Oklahoma or especially A&M and Missouri.
No.
They've now owned the league in a way that Alabama or Georgia has, or even LSU. They've done well. Of course, it's a different thing. But if you are the best basketball conference already and the toughest one, and you have a blue blood legacy basketball first program like Kansas in it, and then you bring in Arizona and Houston into your conference, and Houston at the not at the peak of their success because
take that down for a second, Brandon.
Phi Slamma Jamma would have been the peak of their success. You know, like that's it. But at the second best time in the history of Houston basketball, and probably the second best time, that's maybe where we are right now.
Or just a continuing time for Arizona.
But if you think about it, okay, Arizona's won some titles, right? They won under under Terry. Was it Terry?
Who?
Who was the coach when they last won at Arizona?
Who?
The head coach.
Was it Lute Olson?
Lute Olson. Did they win under Mike Terry's dad?
I don't know.
Okay, anyway. But they've won a bunch. So I would say this is maybe for every program that's an elite program in the Big 12, at worst, their second best time in their history. Like, their best times are when they're winning titles, but
Arizona's only won it once.
Only won it once.
Yeah,
okay. So that would be the best one.
Yeah, and that was
I'm thinking about
Lute
Bibby.
Olson.
I'm thinking about Mike Bibby.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Lute
Mike
Olson
Bibby.
was the head coach there forever. Yeah.
So they won with Lute Olson. So those are all the best times in their history. Houston's probably right there close to the top time, even though having Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon on the same team is
right.
That's really
Tommy
kind of tough
Lloyd
to beat.
helped stabilize what they're doing.
So
and
you're at so all these teams are, look, Iowa State, this is one of the best times in their school's history. All of that is going on at once. And you have these teams that come in like Arizona and Houston with two of the best coaches in the country.
I screwed up that graphic, Paul.
Oh.
That's just me working over the weekend and not paying attention. Arizona has a 2-game lead with 2 games to play. That graphic showed Houston and also Tech at 14-2. That's not correct by any means. Arizona has a 2-game lead with 2 to play after beating KU. Now let's think about over the weekend what we saw. KU coming off that very impressive win against Houston. They go into Tucson and they got thumped. A 19-0 and 19-2 run, both in the same game. Did you hear what I said? A 19-0 run and a 19-2 run when KU had come all the way back to cut it right there at nut cutting time, and then Arizona blows their doors off.
Right before halftime, I thought, okay, Kansas has gotten their sea legs. They're gonna be all right. They're gonna come back and make this a game. And then that trend continued to a point in the second half, and to which that point it ended. And Arizona went a 19-0 run, I can't remember which one was which. I think but anyway, they had 2 19-point runs where the combined score was 38-2 in each half, and Kansas couldn't do anything about it. Who wins when you go to Tucson? It's not a big fraternity historically, especially this year.
Yeah.
So
it is a big arena with a great history and tradition, although it surprised me that I just realized they've only won the one. Of course, that's pretty good, but they were fantastic for a long, long time.
Kansas got in foul trouble early. Tyler White was off badly. Darren Peterson played well.
But when he didn't play against them, they beat him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of those things. I don't know what to read into all that, but
so let me ask you: when you brought that up, were those notes you were given? Were those like copy points that you were given by somebody to discuss?
No. I mean,
I know.
I do my own thing, but yeah, I mean,
Tech beat them there though. Tech won the game in Tucson.
Yeah, she watches the game like on her phone, off and on, in a different direction while we have something else on the big screen to distract her when there's 19-0 runs going on. So we were watching during that game, I believe we were watching this week's episode of The Pit, which here's her option. I can either watch Kansas lose or I can watch somebody with a compound fracture on television.
They could have suffered that the way they got blitzkrieged a couple of different times. Houston back on track. Their schedule lightens up. They crushed Colorado. West Virginia wins against BYU. The Cougars they're an NCAA tournament team, but they fell out of the top 25. Cincy continues to play well. Ever since their head coach told the fans, you should be angry. They're 6-1. Beat Oklahoma State by 23. Arizona State beat Utah. TCU beat K-State. TCU's trying to get in the tournament too. And then Baylor went to Orlando and got a big-time call at the end of the game on a 3 with, I think, 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 1 second left, hit a free throw, and won against UCF, who they're trying to get in the tournament, so that might have been a bad hickey for UCF. Tonight, Iowa State plays in Tucson against Arizona as the Big 12 battering ram continues. So Arizona, 2-game lead on Tech and Houston, and let's discuss Tech. They lose JT Toppin, and they have now played 3 games without him, and they're averaging 87.3 points per game. Now, that doesn't mean at some point that's not going to come back and take them out. But Christian Anderson's playing incredible. He was already good in the first place. You know that Grant McCasland and his teams are going to fight, scratch, try to take your eyes out. That not in a mean way, but in a way that's the way they play, even if they had everybody full throttle. They have not blinked. Now, someone responded to me on Twitter when I said that. A lot of Tech fans were happy about at least me acknowledging that, which is obvious. And someone said, yeah, but, they're shooting the ball well. That'll calm down. Well, I don't care. Good point. You win usually if you shoot well, unless the other team shoots lights out 3 points and you don't. But they've won 3 games in a row, 87.3 points. They just won in Ames. Their wins now for Texas Tech are at Madison Square Garden. They beat Duke. Oh, they're pretty good. They've now beaten Houston. They've also won at Arizona. And they just won at Iowa State without JT Toppin. They thrive off this. And Grant McCasland and company, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, are right there. There was a time when they do this, what do you call it? They kind of release the seeds. And Tech's seed dropped initially after the injury of JT Toppin. Not in a way that Florida State got screwed when they lost their quarterback, but they said, okay, we want to see how you do. Put them back where they belong. They are really good. Now, does it eventually bite them? I don't know, but they have not blinked since the Toppin injury.
I think that it would it's not going to benefit them not having him at any stretch during the NCAA tournament, but they've shown that they can win without him, and they've showed they can figure it out, which is a credit to those players and the coaching staff. So has it been as catastrophic as it appeared right when it happened? No, it hasn't. However, they've got to get through the conference first, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens. But to jump to that conclusion is obviously easy to do, but I think you have to with all these things. So, let's see how they can adjust without him. The thing that I think that is the difference is they have a lot of guys, and they are the sum of their parts really well. I just think that when it gets into the second weekend of the tournament, the guys that win games are usually the JT Toppins of the world, and you only have one JT Toppin. You can't just be like, okay, where's our next one? It's not how it works. So that's where I'd start to worry about Tech maybe advancing. And even then, what if there's a guy on the team who is the next JT Toppin? He just hasn't hit that gear yet, and this is what is going to have to happen for him to hit that gear.
Yeah, we'll have Bill Jones, by the way, from CBS Texas, CBS Sports Texas. He'll join us about many things when it comes to the best college football prospects. In his opinion, he does a great job of watching and monitoring the combine, the draft, and much more. And the NFL combine news and notes, or us getting news to you about an analyst about the NFL draft, is a college football segment as much as anything else. And then this one here, Florida, the defending national champions, are on a heater.
Yeah.
They have now scored 90-plus points in 6 consecutive games against ranked opponents, third longest streak in NCAA single-season AP poll history. The only team with longer streaks Man, this brings back some great memories. 1989, 1990, when UNLV, the Runnin' Rebels, and Jerry Tarkanian and Loyola Marymount with Paul Westhead were throwing up ridiculous points scored in each game. Florida, which was kind of just simmering. They were just kind of there. They were winning, and they've won 6 consecutive games by scoring 90-plus points, and I think they just crushed Arkansas and John Calipari by scoring 100-plus points over the weekend.
Yeah, they're really good. They lost some alpha dogs off that team last year, but Todd Golden just has them rolling again, and they're on fire. They're starting to look a little bit like a team that you don't want to play in the postseason. Last year, the last 2 years, they looked like a team you didn't want to play. 2 years ago, they suffered a really big injury down the stretch that hurt them. They loaded up the team for Bear for last year, and that's why they won. Still think that Houston, man, I really hate that they didn't win that game on so many levels. But I don't know if Florida is a team that can repeat, but they're close. They're close. I think when you showed the graphic earlier.
Haven't they done that before?
Yeah, they've done it before.
Yep.
They've done it before, although they walked into that year, everybody kind of knew they were going to do it. Nobody could stop Joakim Noah. God, I hate that guy. I have nothing against him other than, he's a dirty hippie who played for Florida, but still, he seems like a nice enough guy.
He might have showered 3 times a day.
Look.
I'm
sure
stop.
I'm sure he's a nice enough guy.
Get back to this team.
Sure he's a nice enough guy.
That's in the past.
But I think that they are close. They're just not quite there yet. I don't know are they as good as Arizona, Duke, Michigan? I don't
Florida?
know. Yeah, I don't know. They're close. Are they as good as them though?
They're now ranked 5th in the country.
Yeah,
they have more
close,
losses than all of those teams. But again, they're dominating who they have played and are peaking, as somebody said in the chat room, at just the right time. Kyle Visser, I'm going to read this only because this is as random a question as I've ever seen in the chat. That says a lot. Can anyone explain women's tennis rankings? What are you talking about? All right.
No. Is that pretty easy?
Yeah, and there's this, by the way, and I was asked this, somebody sent me a note about this, is what's the deal between Texas Tech and Jeff Goodman from the field of 68? He dinged him. He slapped him back down his meter, so to speak, for where they should be in the bracket. And, of course, Texas Tech fans were pissed, and they're now even more pissed because Tech has won those 3 games in a row. From Patrick Cheney, McCaslin should be coach of the year in conversations in the Big 12, maybe even nationally. Let's see. Tech is peaking at the right time. Let's see here. There's another women's basketball note from Kyle. Who said UH dropped out? Oh, retired stockbroker goes, Houston dropped out of the top 25? No, they're number 7 in the country. And I said BYU, when we were giving scores, dropped out of the top 25. NIL and revenue share, Texas Tech won't make it past the Sweet 16 without Toppin, but great coaching by McCaslin. And don't ever give up on my Red Raiders, said old Texas Tech man. McCaslin Coach of the Year and National Coach of the Year. And there's a few others. NIL, if Texas beats Arkansas, watch out. Sean Miller has impressed me. Paxton sent me a text, a little sarcastic about the Big 12 and the NIT. Texas Tech is playing really well, beating good teams. They just won. They beat A&M over the weekend, 76-70. So that's interesting what will happen with them. So there we are, some of the chat room feedback. One more story in men's basketball than Bill Jones. Chad Baker Mazzara has been dismissed from the USC men's basketball team, putting up big numbers. He was putting up 20-something points per game, but he's no longer a part of the USC basketball team. Musselman, the head coach, when they even brought him on, said that there might be some struggles at times. That's not quoting him, but basically knowing that you're bringing on somebody that could create some problems or create issues. It's what he's done when he was at Auburn. And he's gone. And so USC loses their leading scorer in Chad Baker Mazzara as they hit the last week of the regular season.
Yeah, that's a bummer for them. I was so surprised he left Auburn last year because he was such a good player for them. But, the portal is what the portal is, and that's who we are now.
That's what he said. Musselman said, there will never be a dull moment when they brought him on board. Might be that I've got a little more on my plate. And he's had a really good year. He's put up a lot of great stats, but eventually...
Makes me wonder if when he jumped in the portal, Auburn was like, no, don't go.
I would think they would still want him.
But I mean, like, maybe when he came back with, here's what I'm being offered.
Bruce
they
Pearl
were
left, remember? He retired, yeah.
But he also retired later. He did the thing where he waited until all that was closed so he could do the royal line of succession and give it to his son.
Now, Baker Mazzara is averaging, I think it was 20-something points a game. 18 points a game. But he had not played as well once they hit conference time. And he started to miss games, wasn't available, and he now is not available because he's gone. He is gone from USC. When we come back, Bill Jones looking back at the NFL Combine winners and his thoughts about certain players out of college football. If you would like him, and he's a television guy, does play-by-play during preseason games with the Cowboys and much more. Great dude. I got a comment to make to him when we first come on. He can blame him for something that Paul drives you and others crazy. We will have Bill Jones if you want a player, not somebody that's kind of like out of nowhere, although Bill will know who he is. Let me know. Let us know in the chat. We'll ask that question. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Oh, by the way, a new month. And what they had as far as incentives and discounts and pricing off MSRP, etc., is still good and valid through the time that they close the dealership tonight. So you still can get a lot of the President's Day specials, discounts on Jeep. Man, the Jeep Wagoneer, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, two great SUVs, the Ram trucks, and also on even what they have on the lot, which is pre-owned, with a lot of great pre-owned cars from all the different brands and dealers around America. Right there at Alan Samuels, CEO and general manager is Ted Teague. The David Gray is the sales manager. They will take care of your visit. Go test drive and let them talk with you about it. And if you are really interested, they can sit down and let you know what you need, what they need. I'm telling you right now, the Jeep Grand Cherokee is phenomenal. I have been able to drive certain cars at times when Ted, hey, by the way, we want you to drive a Wagoneer. That's unbelievable SUV. Or the other day when I drove over a Jeep Wrangler, which was smooth and quiet, which surprised me a little bit. And then, of course, I've driven a lot of the great Ram trucks. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At the Start Something New sales event at Alan Samuels, drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off, or a new Laramie Crew Cab with 3.9% plus $15,000 off MSRP. Shop Alan Samuels at Waco.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
365 Sports, the 4 o'clock hour, brought to you by QC Kinetics with locations in Dallas and Houston. And I have been using that treatment, and my hip issue that was an ache day in and day out is gone at QCkinetics.com in Dallas and also Houston. Bill Jones, CBS Sports Texas, does TV and play-by-play studio host for Cowboys, including the Brian Schottenheimer Show and more. Has been covering the Cowboys forever, but is a huge college football fan, NFL draft Nick as well. He joins us on 365 Sports. Bill, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Let's start with, do you, when you go into the combine or when you watch or cover and digest the combine, what do you specifically want to find? What are you looking for initially?
First off, great to be on with you.
Yeah,
it's been a long time, Smokey.
Too long. I told Paul to call you a couple of different times. I guess he just lost your number or something.
I actually didn't. Bill, to be fair, I didn't have it.
Well,
I didn't have your information. I went to go email you today, and I was like, this is maybe why I've never called Bill Jones. I just don't have his number.
Well, Paul, you need to start calling. Dave, Smokey, you've given him my number now, and so I expect to hear regularly from you now, Paul.
Done.
Absolutely.
But to answer your question, in fact, I have my big green NFL draft scouting notebook with me right now.
Wow.
I drive around town with it here in my truck. I love the draft, but but when I'm watching college football in the fall, I'm so into covering the Cowboys that Saturday being my day off, I just casually watch like a fan would. And so I'm not paying as close attention to all the players and everything. And so this is my time to really dig in. And to answer your question, as far as the combine goes, it gets me a real head start leading up to the draft, because once you get those measurables, those 40 times and verticals and all that stuff, you can kind of hone in on specific players much more easily. And, there's players that you love just watching them on the field, and that's the bottom line, is how they play on the field. But if you follow this long enough, you see trends through the years where those measurables, there's a reason Gil Brandt relied on those measurables so much for so many years to establish some of those thresholds, because it is an indicator of whether a guy can make it or not in this league.
Bill, did you have a person from the combine that leaps out at you as, whoa, this kind of confirms what I thought about him in the first place?
Well, for sure, the Ohio State guys.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at the two guys that have been projected to the Cowboys, that are not now going to make it to the Cowboys. Caleb Downs did not work out, the safety from Ohio State. He's not going to make it to 12. And Sonny Styles, the linebacker, at 6'5", 244 pounds, running a 4.46 with a 43.5 vertical and 11.2 broad jump. But beyond all of that, if you just listen to him and watch him play, I don't know how he gets out of the top 10. I know Daniel Jeremiah had him as his number 5 prospect in the draft. So take those guys off the board for the Cowboys at number 12. I do think a couple of guys from Texas Tech that David Bailey could be the second pick in the draft, the edge rusher. He confirmed what we saw on the field with his 4.5 40 and his athleticism that he showed, his bend on the edge. But I think a huge winner at the Combine was Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker. We all saw the playmaking ability and why he won every award except the Heisman last year at Texas Tech. But what we now know is that truly he has the athleticism that we thought we saw on the field, but we weren't sure. I even talked with Will McClay, the Cowboys scouting director, going back right the week of the Big 12 championship game, and asked him about Jacob Rodriguez, and he wasn't sure at that point about him because you just didn't know how explosive he was. And but now you see that he does have that explosion, and so he really helped himself a lot in Indy.
Is Caleb Downs, first of all, there's thoughts he's the best player in college football. There were thoughts about even him being the Heisman Trophy finalist or whatever. But I've heard a little smoke coming out of the fact that he's not big. I don't care. I know that arm length and all that. He's a football player. But is that anything at all that has made people nervous?
You know, I think there are people that get caught up in how big a guy is, whatever. But I think a lot of that comes from the so-called draft experts out there that are looking at it, and they look at, okay, through the years, these are the projections of what you have to be. But there's so many cases, especially at the safety position, where undersized players have performed at an elite level, even a near Hall of Fame level. One guy that pops out in my mind is a guy that played at Kansas City, Eric Berry, who was the 5th pick in the draft, and he probably was just 6 foot tall. But he's a 3-time first team All-Pro, and if he had not been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, he'd probably be in the Hall of Fame. So I think it all comes down to whether you can play football or not. And the bigger thing that I think that these teams find out about players is the mental aspect of them. Put them on the board. And I think, as you've seen, Smokey, when you interview Cowboy players from the past who are Hall of Famers or great players from the past, the thing that sets them apart really is the mental side, in my opinion, and the ability to process, the ability to take a lot of information in. And I've always, that's one of the things that's really intrigued me about the draft, is figuring out who are those guys, the best and the brightest type players. And I think that's what you're trying to sift throughout this process to try to find those players who can fit in and take it to the next level.
Bill, this is a depressing quarterback draft if you're hoping to have a bunch of surefire guys. And nobody's really a surefire guy. Which position to you is not that depressing?
Well, I think from a Cowboys standpoint, I think it's not depressing because you do have some defensive players that are available. And the Cowboys, even though Brian Schottenheimer says that they're still going to take best player available, which I think is the way to approach the draft, he does also say that they are leaning defense, and obviously they are, because I think you have to take the best player available at a position of need. And you can look at the entire defense, and there are positions of needs across the board. And so I think that you're going to find, especially where the Cowboys pick, with 2 picks in the first round. The depressing thing from a Cowboys perspective is that they right now don't have a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. And I think probably the strength of this draft is going to be in those, from 20 to 100, where you're going to find really good football players during that time. And the Cowboys, they pick at 12 and they pick at 20, and they're going to get really good players with those picks. But you can see where they may want to think about trading down to pick up a couple of guys, trade down from that number 20 spot and pick up a couple of guys. But we know that sometimes hasn't worked out well in the past for the Cowboys. I've also heard that the elite first-round talent in this draft stops at about 11. And, of course, the Cowboys pick at number 12. So take it for what it's worth right now.
So if that's the case, could you see them trading back at either of those picks?
I can see them doing that, but I don't think that they will. I mean, I would not be surprised, and that would be based on, let's say at number 12, they got a couple of guys they really like, and a couple of those defensive guys have moved down, and they could move down a couple of spots. What they did with the Micah Parsons deal, they moved down one spot with Philadelphia in 2021, because Philadelphia wanted to get their guy, Devontae Smith. And so I don't see them trading down very far from number 12. What they typically have done, though, late first round, is they're players with a first round grade, and typically they usually have around 15 or 16 players, maybe 17, that they have first round grades on. And when you're picking in the 20s, those guys are off the board. And now you've got a range of players at several positions need where that's where they would be more likely to trade down, is from that number 20 spot.
I know the quarterback position is very thin at the top. Obviously, Mendoza with a spectacular couple of years, or a spectacular year at Indiana to win it all, and also the Heisman. And then you see, is Ty Simpson a first rounder? And usually, Bill, there's one or two quarterbacks, no matter what, because his teams are desperate to find that next one, and they've made bad decisions with maybe free agents or whatever. Can you see Simpson or who would be after him, Nussmeier, who might slip into the first round, if at all?
Yeah, Nussmeier has always intrigued me. He had the injury issues at LSU. He also had issues of throwing into coverage, which I didn't like, and taking too many risks. But he's got the makeup that you're looking for, obviously, with his dad, Doug Nussmeier, who's the offensive coordinator with the Saints, and he's been drawing up plays at the kitchen table since he was 3 years old. So you love that about him. Other guys that I look at here, that Nussmeier's the guy that I could see a team falling in love with him, kind of like the Giants did with Jackson Dart, which will push him up. Whether they feel strongly enough about him to take him in the first round, we shall see. A lot of it has to do with the needs of teams around them. I know for a fact, just looking back at last year's draft, that the Saints obviously fell in love with Tyler Shuck. And a good friend of yours and mine, Babe Laufenberg, he loved Tyler Shuck. And the Saints were holding their breath that no other team fell in love with Tyler Shuck before they were able to pick him in the second round. I know for a fact that they were thinking about taking him with the 8th overall pick. And to answer your question on quarterbacks, if a team really likes a quarterback that is such a premium position that you just can't risk it. I mean, it's okay. And it worked out well, I think, for the Giants, taking Jackson Dart at number 25. And people thought, well, they're reaching on him. And just because others don't think that Jackson Dart's a first-round pick, doesn't make that sway you from thinking the way you feel about a player. If someone feels that way about Nussmeier, go for him with a late first-round pick. Think about 2017 when Andy Reid trades up to number 10, all the way to number 10 to take a guy named Mahomes. And I mean, that's the all-time classic example of the so-called draft experts not seeing the light when it came to a quarterback who could be the greatest of all time.
The Cowboys do not have a lot of picks, Bill. They have the first two, then they don't pick again until 112, and then it's scattershot, I guess, kind of after that. So no second, no third. And Jerry Jones has said that this is a year where they would consider spending big in free agency. Is that just something he's saying? Because it kind of is every year when he does that. Because to me, it seems like they would almost have to spend a little bit more just to fill out the roster than they normally have to.
Well, I think that Jerry would say immediately that he's already spent $27.29 million in free agency, which is the franchise tag on George Pickens. Mm-hmm. So obviously, if he didn't do that, Pickens would be a free agent. He's also spent a third round pick in this draft on George Pickens. And by the way, the second round pick went for Quinnen Williams. So you can make that case for this draft also. Fact of the matter is, until they restructure the contracts of the Dak and CD and Tyler Smith, those guys, they're so far over the cap they can't spend any money in free agency. They're not going to have a whole lot of money to spend in free agency, even after they restructure those contracts. But I do think that they will make a concerted effort in free agency to take care of enough needs on their defense with players who will be equipped to be able to, if not be starters, be penciled in as starters, they'll be competing to be starters, legitimately competing to be starters with a rookie that you draft, so that they can be true to their board when it comes with the 12 and the number 20 pick, where they can indeed take the best player available at a position of need, which has been their strategy throughout the years up until the last couple of years. I was left scratching my head 2 years ago with Mike McCarthy's last year, where they did absolutely nothing in free agency. It was as if Jerry told Mike McCarthy, okay, you can coach so much, I'm not going to help you at all in adding any players to this team. Let's see if you can coach. And he did a decent enough job of coaching, although he lost his job at the end of the day. They went their separate ways, and they didn't have success in the playoffs, obviously. And then last year, they added a lot of players in free agency, but they were all bottom of the barrel as far as veteran minimum contracts, and some of those guys never even got on the field, whether it be the injuries or just got beat out. And so I think that they will make a better effort this year in adding strategically players who can that you can say, okay, they're fine at linebacker. I mean, I'll just throw out, because his name's being mentioned, with Nakobe Dean being your middle linebacker, who has a history with Christian Parker, the new defensive coordinator, at a reasonable salary. Now, there's no such thing as a reasonable salary in free agency, which is why they aren't usually players in free agency. But they're in a position now where they have to spend some money in free agency on the defense.
Kenyon Sadiq at Oregon had a huge combine, a great player. Is he the highest rated tight end in your opinion, and will he be the only tight end drafted in the first round?
Well, I'll just say this. Like I said at the outset, I haven't dug deep into these into these prospects. And so, but from what I can tell, when Kenyon Sadiq goes to the combine and he's already listed as the number one tight end prospect.
Yep.
And then he runs a 4.39 with a 43.5 vertical and 11.1 broad jump with 26 bench reps for an explosion number of 80. The explosion number is when you add up the vertical with the broad jump and the bench press, and you get the number 80. 70 is great. Mm-hmm. 80 is off the charts. And so I can tell you, without even looking at the other tight ends, to answer your question, Kenyon Sadiq is my number one rated tight end.
There you go.
And that's without even looking at the other prospects, just based on that alone.
So the edge
But how
rush,
about
go ahead.
How about Eli Stowers and what he did?
Yeah.
Eli Stowers, the tight end from Vandy, who obviously started his career at A&M at a Denton Geyer, and Campbell Trophy winner, 4.51 with a 45.5 vertical and 11.3 broad jump. He made some money.
Yep, he did.
In Indy.
He did. I was going to ask you one question, and I know you got Bill Jones with us, CBS Texas. The edge rushers include Bailey, Reuben Bain, Cassius Howell, among many others. And some of them are not as much edge as they are the others. You hear about Reuben Bain, the length of their arms. And I mean, it's like there is historically this thing about if you have less than 32-inch arms and you're an edge rusher, defensive end, you just don't, you're going to fall sometimes out like forever. Your thoughts about Bailey's obviously not only a great football player, a great dude, but also has all the measurables, et cetera. How do you look at that, Bill, with all your knowledge of the past when it comes especially to Cassius Howell and Reuben Bain?
I think with Reuben Bain, and in fact, he not only doesn't have 32-inch arms. He didn't measure 31-inch arms. 30 and 7/8 inch is what he measured. I throw that out. I mean, look at the tape, look at the film, and Reuben Bain was a monster on the field. I think part of that is sometimes arm length. If you're going to, it depends how you're going to employ that player, and he's obviously most effective getting after the quarterback, and there's any number of ways to do it. On arm length for a defensive end, a lot of times that's if you're going to be using him as a base 4-3 defensive end where he's defending run, then you got to have arm length to be able to shed a blocker and hit the edge and so forth. But with Reuben Bain makes up for a supposed lack of arm length with his strength. I mean, if you watch him, stronger than any guy on the field. And so I just throw that out. One thing on Cassius Howell, he did not have a great combine in comparison with these other guys. I mean, the numbers are just off the charts. The athleticism of these guys compared to past years. I mean, if you go back, especially 10 or 20 years, there's so many guys that, edge rushers that are running, 4.5 and below. So take it with a grain of salt. But Howell, with a 4.59 40, well, that's not bad. But it's not, and the explosion number was 32.5 and a 9.7 broad jump, so forth. So he's being talked about as being a non-winner at the combine. But here's another guy that 17th rated player, according to Daniel Jeremiah, coming into the combine. I don't think he's going to go down any much further than that based on what he did at the combine. So take it with a grain of salt. I think what the combine does more than anything, it can confirm what you're seeing on tape, but it also can be misleading in terms of the athletic ability of some players. A lot of it has to do with how much you trained for the events at the combine too.
Bill Jones with us, CBS Texas, and we appreciate it, man. I did see a note. The last tweet you put up was about you could tell the difference with what OU now is doing with Venables compared to the players that are being looked at. Your thoughts about it? You're an OU fan. Your thoughts about them trying to turn the corner. Made the playoff, didn't win, but after those first couple of years with Venables, there was a lot of concern. I think we lost him. Yep, may have lost him, Brandon. I know we were starting to lose a little bit of that. I don't have what is the tweet? He had the tweet. He said here. Yeah, let me read it to you. He goes, looking at OU's combine numbers, it really shows how much better the athletes are that Brent Venables is recruiting and developing than the previous coach. Which is that. You look at Ohio State, Reese, Styles, Downs, and I think there's somebody else in there.
Carnell Tate.
Yeah, how do I forget him?
Yeah.
And just freaking great players, not just athletes, but players. There was a stretch there for it seemed like every year Alabama have 3 guys in the top 8 or 10 or whatever, and we saw that, and they still have players that are very good. But it is insane. That is just unbelievable, the type of talent. And they did win it 2 years ago, but not last year because eventually, what was it? Miami. Is that right? Miami beat them, and, of course, Indiana did too. All right, thanks to Bill Jones, CBS in Texas. Appreciate his time. When we come back, we want to go through we were going to do this earlier. This is kind of an off. We have Kevin Flaherty at 4:40. I'd like for Craig to be here, but he's not here today. On the NFL survey of franchises.
Oh,
and
gosh.
My favorite franchise, the Washington, now Commanders, used to be, of course, the Redskins. They were at the bottom of the barrel with Daniel Snyder. How soon has that ownership made a difference?
They've clawed their way to the middle.
They are doing well.
Yeah.
You
know what's surprising me? It's not the teams that are at the very bottom. It's some of the teams in the middle. There's a couple owners in there that you would think it would chap their ass that they're in the middle on certain things, but I actually don't think it does, and I'll explain that when we get to it.
All right, well, let's come back and we'll discuss that. A couple of other good notes as well. This is 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. What can I say? I brought them up earlier today. You'll have phone numbers to their locations in Houston and also in Dallas. QC Kinetics has helped me get rid of pain. There were, I'm going to say since about COVID, year after year, day after day, I would wake up and immediately I'd have this little twinge in my hip. And it was diagnosed as being kind of a problem that I had in my lower back. But it was my lower back that was creating the issue and the aches and the pain that I had in my right hip. Raise your hand if I want to feel worse. No, you don't. How many of you have had steroid injections in your back, spine, or elsewhere to kick the can down the road for maybe a couple of months or so? I would do that about once or twice a year to give me some relief, but then in the end, my little ache, pain, arthritis that I had in my hip would come back. I'd had an MRI on my hip. There was nothing structural, nothing muscle, nothing bone that created the problems and the pain that I had in my hip. So I eventually heard my good buddy RJ Choppy, does sports talk radio in Dallas, talk about QC Kinetics. And finally, I called him. I went up for a consultation, spoke with them. Meredith was who I talked with, and they started going over the plan, the treatment, and much more. And I started that day. And I've had 4 treatments. I have one that they say, hey, you can have this in your holster to use whenever you want. They are taking what's inside of your body. There are the numbers below. They are taking what is inside your own body, spinning blood, spinning plasma, spinning bone marrow, and putting it back inside where you hurt. I've had the treatments, and it's made a difference. I played golf both Saturday and Sunday. In the past, that would have kind of like tightened me up a little bit. I'm able to now swing and attack a shot like I haven't in 3 or 4 years. QC Kinetics with locations in Dallas, 972-972-8610, in Houston, 713-913-5285. What they do is they use the latest regenerative treatments by taking something out of you, spinning it, and putting it back in you. If you want to get pain-free, contact QCkinetics.com.
4 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The time is now. It's time for a new ride at the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr GMC Buick Cadillac.
Sierra blends the premium interior with the muscle of a true work truck, built to handle the job and look good doing it. It's why GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. During our New Year New Ride sales event, qualified buyers can save $13,000 on a Sierra. Drive one home today for just $41,390.
Call now, get here now, or log on now for the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
This is 365 Sports.
Every team in the NFL, they've done this before. It hasn't been going on for very long, but they have a player survey. It includes the following categories: treatment of families, food/dining area, nutritionist and dietitian, locker room, training staff, weight room, and strength and conditioning coaches. There's also a few others. Let me see here. Let me get that out of the way. There are also, I believe it's ownership is one too. Now, here is a list that Paul put the graphic in our what we call base camp. This is the graphic showing the NFL surveys and the report cards. For example, we can get that up, please, at some point. There we go. Those are the grades you see at the top. NFL Players Association team report cards. This is for ownership. There's a lot of categories. This surprised me. Miami. It's a franchise that's struggling. Tua's gone. Miami, Minnesota, and Atlanta all received A+. Denver, the Chargers, the Raiders, Houston, the Commanders all get A's as well. The Commanders used to be as low as you could go when it came to ownership because of Daniel Snyder just was wretched at running the franchise. Cowboys, where are they, Paul? B.
They are a B, which was to me very, very surprising given the fact that they have this great setup there at the Star, all those things, but their training staff keeps kind of getting like they've had the same training staff for a long time. I think that Jerry's very loyal to them, and they've been successful in that. But I don't think people are completely as nuts about that as maybe they should be. The other thing I would say is there are some complaints that, like, the dining hall didn't get an A. But I've seen that dining hall.
That's cute.
If I went into it. But you know why it doesn't get an A? It's because they give tours. And if they are sitting in there eating, then while they're eating, all these people from, Omaha, Nebraska that came through are like, hey, look, there's Dak Prescott.
But they do that in practice. They do that in the weight area.
So that bothers players because they feel they have no privacy. But when you come to the Cowboys, you kind of have to deal with certain things that you don't. Look, when you're at the Bengals, you can go eat in the mess hall and nobody cares. Nobody's coming in. Nobody's walking through. But Jerry, secured the financing for all of this, where he didn't have to pay much of his money to do it, because he told the people of Frisco, hey, you're going to get to see the Cowboys.
And makes money off of it.
And doing it. So, yeah, it's just not going to change.
Team treatment of families, not a surprise.
No.
Once you're a part of the Cowboys organization, even if you're a knucklehead, you are a part of the Cowboys organization. They treat you with unbelievable. Look at the facility. And if you've never been there, then I understand. But even when Valley Ranch was open decades ago, it was at the time state of the art with what they had. Food and dining area, B+. I spoke with some people that actually cover the Cowboys on an everyday basis. They said, first of all, the food is spectacular. The amenities are spectacular, but as you said, they get dinged a little bit because maybe it's not isolated enough for them to enjoy, and they don't look like a petting zoo, look but don't touch.
Yeah, I think that's why. And I think because they, sometimes I just want to go eat my turkey sandwich in peace.
Dietitian, nutritionist, state-of-the-art, B+. Locker room, unbelievable facilities, that's an A. Training room and training staff, C's. In all the years that I've covered the Cowboys, and I've not been to Frisco much, and not on an everyday basis. I used to go up and cover the Cowboys at Valley Ranch, and even sometimes once or twice a week, host the show from Valley Ranch. All of that, training camps, Brett Maurer, and others in that staff are as good as you could imagine. That's got to hurt them.
Yeah, there's something going on there because that's been about the same grade between a B- and C for the last few report cards.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny about this also is Woody Johnson, who got an F, by the way, on this, the Jets, fought as hard as he could for this not to be made public, and then the NFL agreed to it, and then they still got leaked.
Yeah.
because they knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Now, there are some teams that have pretty good grades on that list, and you could take that down if you want to now, Brandon. Just a couple more minutes with it. For example, I mentioned the Commanders. They have terrible locker room facilities. I've been in that one at Redskins Park, where they are, whatever they call it now, Commanders Park or whatever. Yeah, they don't have the best setup as far as amenities. I'm sure that's going to change when they move into the new RFK, whatever they're going to call it. But look at the grades they had. This is a franchise, remember, that was a cluster blank. Team travel, A. Head coach, A+. Team ownership, A.
That's huge. Because
they were all just flat D's and F's.
The head coach would kind of fluctuate, but the head coach was always handcuffed by that other part of it. The management and the ownership, they could hire a guy that everybody liked. I think most players liked a couple coaches that they had, but but Dan Snyder, he didn't care about that aspect of it. He didn't care that this is a coach who can reach the players. He was like, I'm going to hire Marty. I'm not Marty Schottenheimer, but this is Marty Schottenheimer. But Marty Schottenheimer didn't work out. Oh, Steve Spurrier's brilliant. Steve Spurrier will work out. Well, I'm not saying that none of those guys are guilty for not reaching the pinnacle, but he never put them in a position to do so ever. They just kind of Mike Shanahan had to come in with 2 Super Bowl rings and basically swim upstream and try to prove to Daniel Snyder that he knew what he was doing the whole time. And then he didn't get along with every player, and it just not you have to, but everything was toxic, and because of that, it's hard to function as an organization.
Yeah, and I've been when RG3 was drafted, number 2 overall, went up there, spent a day at the facility. They got the indoor bubble. There's a lot of good things. They've got plenty of space to practice, but overall the amenities were way behind, and just the ownership was just toxic, with not only the players or facilities, but also just within the entire organization because of some of the investigations that came about.
I think if you've got a B or above in this, you can be pretty happy about yourself. You're running an organization that's professional, and not that your organization isn't good, but if I'm getting a C+ or below on this, I am certainly looking inward. Now, a lot of owners are not like that, but the Giants, here are the teams that got C+ or below. I'll just run through them. The Giants, Browns, and Seahawks all got C+. The Rams, Bengals, which the Bengals at a C is a miracle considering how much players have hated Mike Brown. C- for the Chiefs, D+ for the Bucks, D's for the Steelers and Patriots. And the Steelers, that's a shocker to me because the Rooneys have been well known as very loyal people, but there's a lot of things on that list that don't include like how much this guy might be a nice guy. Robert Kraft, I'm just shocked that the Patriots are at a D. These last three don't surprise me at all because I think they're the worst owners. The Raiders got an A, and they have one of the most aloof owners ever. But the Bidwells, the Panthers ownership, and Woody Johnson, D-, D-, F. Tepper, yeah. David Tepper. David Tepper, the Bidwell family, and Woody Johnson. Not a shock that those are all really low.
There's a sponsor of this show, and they're out of North Carolina, and I'll never forget talking to them as we were talking about business sponsorships, 365 Sports, and I mentioned where we were, the location, and Matt Rule's name came up. Of course, he was in Carolina, and the person on the other end of the phone spent like the next 5 minutes about the ownership of the Carolina Panthers and how much they hated them and didn't like them and how bad it was. One quick note before we take a break and come back with Kevin Flaherty on men's basketball in the Big 12 Conference. I cannot thank you enough. Zach Barnett, who was on the show Friday, his wife, of course, has been going through a lot of health issues, and she's on the right side of what was just, they did not know about her. They did not know. It was a bad deal. I mentioned it on Friday. We ended up with this show raising nearly $2,500 in the fundraiser, the link that we put up on the show, in the show Friday. Some of you, we mentioned Kim and the $1,000. Barry, $500. S. Michael DeHart, $100. But there were others that are not a part of what they call that group that are still a part of the chat room, a part of 365 Sports, that also donated money to Zach Barnett's family so that they have enough money to help offset some of the cost. Again, you can imagine the cost, but also just have daily food menu things dropped off at the house, whether it's DoorDash or something else. So thank you. Wanted to put that. You guys, all of you, men and women, came through, and Zach Barnett was so appreciative and said, man, thank you very much. Tell everybody I said thank you. Zach Barnett, good luck with you and your wife as you guys continue that comeback. Coming up, Kevin Flaherty, Big 12 basketball, the final week as the battering ram of the Big 12 continues, and this is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. I mentioned how my hip is so much better through treatment with QC Kinetics, but my MRI that I had on my lower back that was the diagnosis of why my hip was bothering me. You hear about things that if your back goes out, your legs can go out too. That happened. And for me, it was my hip. It was just a constant, headache. Have you ever had a tooth that's gone bad? A tooth that needed a root canal or needed to be pulled or something was screaming? And man, when you push on it, it almost feels better just because you're trying to get rid of the pain. Same thing with my hip. Now it's better. The MRI that I have of my lower back that led to the diagnosis that was creating the problem I had with my hip came from Ideal MRI. 4 times I've been inside their state-of-the-art imaging machine. 4 times it was $497 or less. Now, because I'm on Medicare, the last time I went, it was nothing because of what that brings to the table. But $497, when the average is $1,100, $497 is a great price. And it's a phenomenal state-of-the-art imaging machine. Your doctor orders it. You go. They take pictures, send it to your doctor. You also yourself get the images as well at IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery for my G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Got floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
IdealMRI.com. You just heard me discuss them, a title sponsor of our show, an MRI that will never cost you more than $497 every single time. Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network, joins us, does an incredible job of covering college basketball, and the Big 12 headed, as a lot of conferences are, for their final week. Well, KU ran into a roadblock. Arizona was able to get back on track. And then just like Texas Tech goes into Ames, Kevin, your thoughts, what's the biggest take from the weekend for you in the Big 12?
Just another week in the Big 12, right?
Yep.
It's getting to be one of those things that it feels like every week you can look at results and say, man, this team's trending up, this team's trending down. I don't know that a lot of people realize one of the hottest teams in the conference right now is Cincinnati, kind of out of nowhere. And so you've seen sort of the bounce backs. I think one of the things that has made Arizona the team that's going to win the title this year is the fact that the Wildcats haven't had as many dips as certain teams have. You know, Iowa State has been a team that has looked unbeatable at times and very beatable at other times. Kansas has looked unbeatable at times, beatable at other times. Texas Tech has gone through its things. Texas Tech, I think, to me, maybe even more than Arizona, you know, clinching a share of the conference, Texas Tech to me was the one that really stood out because – guys, I'll be honest with you, and I don't think it was just me. I thought when JT Toppin went out, this is a program that was going to kind of be dead in the water. And if anything, they're playing at a really high level right now. Christian Anderson's playing as well as anybody, not just in the conference, but in the country. And so now all of a sudden it sets up this wild final week where Arizona's fate is secure, but 2 through 5 can go any one of about 10 different ways, depending on the way this week goes. And that's been the excitement about this league this year. this is a conference that's typically had a lot of depth, but not necessarily the depth at the top. That's been the one kind of knock that you could have about this conference, was for such a long time it was Kansas and then kind of everybody else. But this year you've had 5 teams that really feel like, hey, if we catch lightning in a bottle, we're a Final Four team this year.
Arizona's win over Kansas was emphatic at the end. I mean, KU cut it to 2 at one point and looked like they had maybe found their groove a little bit. But given the foul trouble, that Trey White was kind of ice cold, this was maybe not in the cards on Saturday. How much of a statement win was that for Arizona, especially with Kansas coming off, consecutive Big Monday wins?
It was huge. And I think if you took everything else out, the fact that Arizona turned Kansas over more times, the fact that Arizona dominated the glass, the foul trouble, leave all of that out. Just set that to the side. If you just looked at the shot charts for the two teams, you would have said, oh, Arizona's going to win this thing by quite a bit. And I think that's what makes Arizona such a dangerous team heading into March, and why this was such a statement win is Arizona just grinds great shots, possession after possession after possession. And they went cold for a little bit there. It almost felt like they forgot Braden Burries existed when he was playing so well. Kansas cuts it to 2, like you said, but you could see that Kansas was taking tougher shots. It felt harder for Kansas to generate good looks, and Arizona just sort of kept getting shots at the rim, kept getting shots at the rim. The shots that they were taking from the perimeter were open looks. And so by the end of the game, the team that generated the better shots was the team that really pulled away and put that thing away. It is kind of funny, though, guys. I've probably seen every team that Bill Self has had at Kansas in person in some shape or form. It's kind of a badge of honor to be called soft. I'm not sure even Bill Self's best teams haven't been called soft at some point during the season. I'm just not sure that we've had a whole lot of instances where Self has talked about his team being soft this late in the season the way that he did after that game.
Well, I could have seen that maybe, 5 or 6 weeks ago, a month, when they were trying to kind of find themselves. And then they went on that stretch of, 7 or 8 in a row and nice wins. I don't think they're soft. I just think that, again, Arizona is really good, and KU coming out that emotional win in Lawrence. So I was going through for what's the week this week, Kevin, when it comes to the Big 12, and there's still, of course, the game tonight. There's a lot to be determined, as you mentioned. With Arizona, the only one that knows that they've clinched at least a tie. But the Big 12 has been known for being a great men's basketball conference.
Yeah.
Baylor won it in 21. KU followed up in 22, and I'm not so sure they both couldn't have won it 1 or 2 other years along the way based on COVID or whatever, or injuries. And yet Houston and now Arizona, who've joined the conferences in different waves, have won the last 3 regular season championships in a conference that was so good already before they arrived.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you stretch it back even further. Oklahoma goes to a Final Four in 16. Tech reaches the national championship game in 19. You were starting to see more involvement kind of across the conference. And yet Houston comes in and winds up, kind of dominating the league their first 2 years. This year, probably going to be second, depending on the way things shake out this week. And Arizona winds up winning the conference. I don't think it has a whole lot to say. I see some people saying, well, KU's not winning the league now that the league has gotten better. I don't necessarily see that. I just think the league is such a gauntlet. I think that the margin for anybody is so thin, and I think the talent is further spread out across college basketball. You don't typically have NBA wings coming off the bench the way that maybe you did 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And so I think that it's a little bit more spread out. A couple bounces go differently. Maybe Kansas is closer to the driver's seat right now. Maybe Iowa State is. Maybe Texas Tech is in that spot. But the way that it went, Arizona was a team that, night after night after night, just didn't have bad performances. And I think maybe even more than playing great all the time, the ability to not have bad outings is not only what makes a conference champion, but guys, gives you the best chance to win in March and April, because we have never seen a team hit outside shots for 6 straight games. Even that 2018 Villanova team, I always like to say they made a mockery of the 3-point line in that NCAA tournament. Even that team had, what was it, like a 2 for something or 4 for 25, whatever it was when they played Texas Tech in that Elite Eight. And so can you win when your outside shots aren't falling? Arizona's kind of a different case study in that Arizona doesn't take a ton of threes. And so you wonder the other way is, are they going to lose a game where maybe they go 4 for 9 from 3, but they run into somebody who makes 10 plus threes? The one thing I will say is Arizona gets to the free throw line a lot. They get a lot of offensive rebounds, and then they get a lot of shots at the rim. And so this is one of the safer teams, I think, heading into March, where you can say this is probably a team that's not going to get clipped in a major upset. Can they get outplayed? Can they lose? Sure, anybody can in college basketball, but it's not going to be one of those things, I think, where you're worried about them in a 116 or you're worried about them in a 1 versus 8 or 9 game in the second round.
Kevin, how do you? I always ask this question as you get to the end of the year. Do you get a sense that this league is ready to be kind of done with itself? Like, let's go play other teams, please, dear God.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look at the stretch that Houston just went through, right? I mean, Houston had to feel great about itself a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden, you aren't feeling so great. You got a little bit of a tummy ache, right? Mm-hmm. Kansas gets the big win over Houston. They're riding high. It's national title or bust, and then all of a sudden you have to go to Tucson in the very next game and you get run out of the building. And so I think even Arizona, with the way that they've played, they're ready to see other teams. I think, quite frankly, some of the teams are probably ready to see different officials, right? And the way that this league is officiated, because as somebody who watches all the top games, guys, it really felt like they let them play this year. Mm-hmm. It really felt like the top games, whether it's going to be tonight, with Arizona and Iowa State, whether it was KU, Iowa State, KU, Arizona, and Lawrence, Kansas, Texas Tech was basically a WWE match down in Lubbock. Whoever has been playing in those tougher games, they've really let them be physical. And I'm interested to see how that plays out in the NCAA tournament, because you don't want to go in overly physical because that's what you're used to. And then you look down at the bench and 3 of your top guys are in foul trouble. The flip side of it is, hey, maybe you're playing your normal game and instead of getting, 12 free throws like you might have gotten in a Big 12 game, you're going to the free throw line 22, 25 times, and maybe you have a better chance to win. And so I think they're tired of seeing each other. I think they're probably also tired of seeing how physical the games have been in some of the tougher games this year.
So I don't have all the quad wins and all that in front of me, but Arizona, Houston, Tech, Iowa State, Kansas, all 5 are going to make it, and they'll all have a pretty good seed. Then you have this stack now of 9-7 UCF and TCU. UCF is 3-3 against the AP Top 25. TCU 2-5. West Virginia, BYU, and Cincinnati are 8-8. When there was a time, I thought BYU was locked, and they probably still are with what they've done. But you mentioned Cincinnati, and here comes West Virginia with Ross Hodge and company. Who's going to be outside of those other 5 in the tournament, in your opinion?
Yeah, right now I think they're 8 in. I think you have the 5 that you talked about. BYU is still in. I think they're looking at a mid seed. Whether I know Bracket Matrix had them as a 6 right now. I'm wondering if that's going to be closer to a 7 or 8 on Selection Sunday, especially when they look at BYU without Richie Saunders and some of the faults and everything there. UCF is going to be a mid seed, I think, on sort of that 8-9 range, probably on the 9 line. TCU right now is one of those last few teams in. I think when you're looking at the 11 seeds, which are kind of the last remaining, the 11s and 12s, the last remaining at-large teams. And then right now, West Virginia and Cincinnati are outside looking in. And I think that's fascinating to me for a few reasons. One, it used to be if you got to 20 wins and you had a positive record in the Big 12, you were a shoo-in, right? Like that was it. You didn't have to do really much of anything else. And I think when you look at the way that the committee is judging teams and what the NCAA has said, hey, the committee is going to be looking at these things. One of the really important metrics that they mentioned is that wins above bubble, right? And West Virginia, they beat Kansas. They beat BYU. They beat Cincinnati twice, which you think would give them a leg up over Cincinnati in that sort of look if the two of them wind up getting compared. They're 60th in wins above bubble. And wins above bubble, for those who don't know, it's basically an advanced metric. Think about, yards, of over expected or whatever, where they say this play should be worth this. And so if you get a big win, maybe it's 0.7 wins above bubble. If you get a loss, it may be negative. And so West Virginia currently 60th in the country in wins above bubble. Cincinnati, which beat Iowa State, beat Kansas at Allen Fieldhouse, is 66th in wins against bubble. Cincinnati, if they win their last two games, and they have a real chance to do that, they'll be sitting there with 18 wins. They'll be 10-8 in the Big 12, going into the Big 12 tournament, where a couple wins means, hey, you've got a 20-win season, plus you were 10-8 in the Big 12, one of the best conferences in America. They still might not get in. I think they would still be borderline at that point. And it's wild. I know, guys, all of us, I'm not trying to insult any of us, but none of us are spring chickens. And we can all remember back when they used to look at, how you played in your recent games, right? Recent 10, and they looked at all that. They don't look at that anymore. A win over a team in November is just as important as how you're playing now. We saw that help Oklahoma with Trae Young when they kind of, fell off a cliff late in the year, still made the NCAA tournament. It didn't really hurt them. In this case, Cincinnati being red hot. And when I say red hot, over the last, since February 6th, I think, they've been the sixth best team in college basketball, according to Bart Torvik. That's not going to help them get in. It's a season-long thing, and Cincinnati gave away some opportunities to maybe put themselves on the right side of the bubble.
Yeah, I think Wes Miller is taking himself off that coaching bubble, so to speak, because of the way that they've closed this year. Now, a lot of those guys won't be back next year because that's just the nature of it. But I think he's proven what he can do. Kevin, this is the second Monday in a row that we've spoken. Last week we had lunch, and I'm still thinking about that sour beer that I had and that I can't get anywhere but there. So now we're going to have to come back. That's just the bottom line, is we have to go back there.
Yeah, you can get a keg of it too. All their stuff there. Actually, I've got a deal. I don't know if I should talk about it on the show, but I've got a deal with the local liquor store here where if Free State ever puts out any sort of beer, I let them know I want a keg of it. They let me know, and I've got a kegerator here at the house. I've got full of Free State at Astor right now, so it's a good situation.
You have a kegerator in your house?
It's in the garage. Yeah, sure.
That's awesome, man. You have just moved up very high.
Oh, listen. I learned so much about Flaherty last week. We were already friends, but it was great. Like, not often that we get to see our out-of-state guests and break bread, but it was amazing. And he hit a home run as the guest of honor of the lunch, because I have two Kansas crazies that have nothing but questions that I can't answer.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, you do a great job covering basketball, but the keganator, that's extra special. I might have had that when I was younger. I had a bigger refrigerator freezer in my garage.
Made it himself
too. Loaded. Yeah.
Made it himself too.
He built it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I Jedi mind tricked the wife into getting a different refrigerator, and when she thought we were throwing away our old one, I said, "No, we're bringing that into the garage. I'm going to use that now." And she said, "Was that your plan all along?" Well, yeah, kind of. So that was how I got the old fridge and then built that thing into a kegerator.
All right, a couple of things outside the Big 12, if you don't mind. Florida's on a heater. Defending champions. They have 6 losses, more than anybody else, like in front of them, and a couple of 2 or 3 teams behind them. But they're mauling people and scoring 90 points and more a game. Your thoughts about, are they peaking at the right time? Are they I don't know about as good as last year, but are they absolutely a team you better be careful about not overlooking when it comes to the bracket?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that they're quite as dangerous as they were a year ago, because they aren't as good at guard. And you look at how many years, in March Madness, everybody says it's all about guard play. It's about guard play. Well, the reason Florida has taken off is the guards are playing really, really well. They've always had the terrific size in the front court and been really tough to match up with. Chinyelu is one of the best defenders in the entire country. The backcourt is coming along. It's just not at the same level that it was a year ago, where it's, hey, you're playing somebody in the national championship game and you need somebody to go off that you absolutely know that guy is going to be there. So Florida, yes, absolutely. Still a national title contender, still a really tough matchup, playing incredibly well, but I don't think they're quite as good as last year's team, just because they aren't going to have the best backcourt in every single game they play like they had a year ago.
All right, Kevin, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network with us, the Big 12. Men's basketball in the final week. A lot of other conferences will start conference tournament this week. And then next thing you know, by what would be 2 weeks from today? 2 weeks from yesterday, we'll have the unveiling of the bracket for the NCAA tournament. And then, of course, the greatness of Tuesday, Wednesday, and on. Kevin Flaherty with us, Kansas City Sports Network on 365 Sports. When we come back, a couple of 3 or 4 stories to get to. Steve Sarkisian has hired a former SEC head coach to be a part of his staff as an analyst, and a couple of other nuggets as well with winning what we have for 365 Sports. And then around the corner, quizzes, polls, the wheel, and more. And this is 365 Sports.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels, drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off, or a new Laramie Crew Cab with 3.9% plus $15,000 off MSRP. Shop Allen Samuels at Waco.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com. 365
is
Sports. That's $2.
365 Sports.
Damn it! I did the other one. I lost $1 on the first after. You know why? Because you have a longer delay there.
Well,
on
I mean,
purpose.
yes, because I'm trying to train you.
I'm
to
ready
just
to go.
Listen to music. Just let it come to you.
I'm not. Mm-mm. I don't know if you guys didn't see this, but last week we were going to show this. Somebody, let's see, West Coast college sports guy asked the question, what position would Kenny Dillingham play if he was a football player? Dillingham, with a nice sense of humor and reality, said the bench. Imagine if college football coaches had to wear their team's uniform like it was a Major League Baseball team manager. It's different, but even Dillingham, the bench. How tall is he really?
I mean, he's like my height. I mean, he's not a tall guy.
5'5"?
I said that. No, I'm 5'7" and a half.
No, you know what? Stop.
I've been measured at the doctor. I'm not making that up. If I was 5'5", I would tell you. I'm 5'7" and a half.
Okay, why do you use a half?
Because it's all I have.
I'm saying it because on anything I fill out,
yeah,
and I have forever, it's 5'10" and a half.
Yeah,
it makes me feel like I'm almost 6 feet
the half.
tall.
Look, the half is very important.
And a half.
It's very important. Look, I was in the front row of every picture in school. Like when they take the class picture, I was in the front row. And all of us looked like, and there was like the kid. Now, granted, some of these homunculuses were, they didn't end up, as the titans of industry. But I just would have loved to be on the second row one time. I wasn't trying for back row. I knew God did not intend me to be a power forward.
I usually in the middle row guy.
But if you would have put me in the middle row, I would have been fine. Do you have any idea how much therapy I probably could have saved if I had just been in the middle row?
Because you were short.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to
deal with.
Therapy
because you're short.
Oh, it's a whole self-esteem thing. Being short, it takes when I heard kids that were upset about being tall, my whole thing was oh, F you.
Yeah, no.
You mean you don't have to get on a chair to get the peanut butter? Oh, congratulations.
Do you have one of those little steps in your kitchen to get things up in the cabinet?
Yeah. Well, I mean, whoever designed my kitchen cabinets was a moron anyway, but
you bought the house knowing that.
I know, but I bought the house because I could afford it. Okay. I mean, it wasn't I got down. I was I could have another house and pay $80,000 more for it. The cabinets are nicer, or I could just get a step.
Well, now they have things that for short people like you.
Yeah.
That you could almost push a button.
I wish it was like the car.
Mm-hmm.
You know those cars where you kick your foot under and the lift gate opens. Mm-hmm. That's what I would like to see in kitchens for short people. But the one problem is that there's no I don't have a pantry in the house, which is annoying. There's no pantry. It's just all cabinets. And
okay, I've been in there. You got a big wide open kitchen.
Yeah.
There's a middle, whatever you call it, island. And you don't have a pantry.
I don't have a pantry.
Yeah.
And so because of that, there's essentially the pantry drawer is above the counter if you're facing it on the right, and it's got 3 levels, and I can pretty much get to the second level, no problem. The third level, though, everybody has to get on a chair or climb up on the counter.
Everybody?
Yeah, everybody. I mean, you would have to. It's too far up there.
Okay.
But the second level, if something is too far back in the far right corner, I do have to get up and get it because I can't just get to it from leaning over the counter.
Someone in the chat said that you were 5'7" and a half in hooker heels.
No, I'm 5'7" and a half. Okay. I mean, have they met me? No. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
I have one that when you walk into mine, and I'm in the condo, but when you walk into my kitchen, as you're walking in, there's a cabinet that's kind of a pantry with an area that you could put canned foods and stuff like that.
And look, when you let a woman move into your house, which I honestly should have just done from the beginning, just hey, can you stay here? Just
some random woman.
Just some random lady to come and tell me everything that was wrong with the house. That way I would have known. Actually, but now I have not a random woman, I have a wife, and she can come in and she'll tell me everything that was wrong with this stupid house that I bought. And it's apparently clear. Now look, when you're living alone and you only eat 7 things, having a full pantry is not really that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I never really went to the third shelf when I was living alone because
you couldn't get to it.
Well, I mean, but I also didn't have. I mean, it would be stupid for me to fill up with that much stuff.
You know what I know about this, and I mean this. I used to be someone. I love cooking, you know that, but I don't cook as much. But my cabinet, my pantry, it just always had more than I needed. I don't know why. I just didn't. Let's get 5 things of tomato paste for when I do lasagna. 8 months from now.
No,
I throw that. I have taken some many trips to the dumpster.
But yeah, so
we have.
And here's what I realized when I first moved in. I went to Sam's. I loaded it up, and then I looked and there was a canned food drive, and I was like, well, that's the cans I've got to take because I'm never going to eat those. I might as well give them to somebody because if they're just going to sit there and then expire, and it's because I'm like, I don't know if I want that corn today. And then it's just how it was. So a
can of corn?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to make that recipe I got. I don't have time to do that.
Is it Mexicorn? Is it that kind of
I like
spicy?
the crisp, super sweet.
I like those too.
Yeah.
From Firefighter. And once it's open, Paul, us tall people then crack our head on it as far as the cabinet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oops. Yeah. You know what? Duck. It's fine. It's not as embarrassing. Or when you have to ask somebody, say you're in a place that you don't know where, that you're staying at somebody's house and oh, yeah, no, help yourself to anything you need. The cereal's in the cabinet. And you go to the cabinet and it's up like it is with mine. And then I have to figure out a way to go get it because they're gone. It's just, there have been a lot of embarrassing short guy things that happen to us as a short people that don't happen to tall people.
Random note from the weekend. I know Craig does Off the Radar on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Northwestern State, the Demons, beat Missouri State in softball 5-3. Missouri State had 6 hits. Both teams had an error. Northwestern State won 5-3, and they did not have a hit. They did not have a hit. They scored 5 runs in the same inning, the first inning, on a hit batter, 2 walks, and a fielder's choice throwing error that just started that cycle. They won, giving up 6 hits. They did not have one themselves, and they won 5-3 over Missouri State.
That's the no-hitter no one's going to brag about.
Yep, absolutely. Last thing is the NFL Combine. How many times do you hear from either online, huddle, parents, coaches, that they have players in high school that run 4.4s? How often?
I've heard it a lot.
And that doesn't mean there aren't some that don't run like a sub 4.5. This from a recruiting service last week as they were showing up all these different 40s. Now think about this. This is from the Combine, the NFL Combine since 2020. The average laser time for wide receivers in the last 6 combines is 4.52. Cornerbacks, 4.53. Safeties, 4.57. Running backs, 4.59. And then, of course, there's linebackers that are higher than that. When you hear that, he runs a 4.4, that could be a 4.4 or a 4.9 or 4.49, but be careful about that because these are the greatest players getting to the NFL, and the averages, I told you, that's like a 4.52 in a wide receiver. The average is 4.52, and you're going to have some guys that run a 4.7. So the 4.4, like all the high school, just is not being critical. Just be careful about popping that out as much as you might see them do.
Yeah, you might, but more than likely, you're going to get to that point.
Yeah.
You probably run a 4.5, maybe even in the high 4.5s, but they train you up. Charlie Strong said something one time that was extremely interesting to me. When he had come to Texas, he was a little bit shocked at how good that all of the facilities were and how much kids worked out, and they kind of already knew protein shakes and nutrition and all of that. And he had coached at Louisville, and he'd recruited the state of Florida really, really well. He came from USF, if you remember, all of that. So when he came to Texas, he was in Florida, which is a great recruiting state, but you go into places like Clewiston, Florida, you might find some dudes, but they eat Lucky Charms every morning.
Yep.
The weight room at Clewiston High School, which may be better now, I'm not trying to knock it, I'm just using it as an example, might be 4 weight benches, 3 squat racks, and some free weights. And then you go into a place, like South Lake Carroll, and they have their own indoor facility, and you're like, well, these are two things are not the same, even though they should be. Right. And so it's different. So the kids in Florida, that kid might have 4.4 potential in the 40, but he eats Lucky Charms every morning for breakfast. And this kid in Texas has 4.4 potential, and he's running maybe a 4.51, or he's maybe in the high 4.4s, maybe even get to that 4.3, except for the fact that he's kind of at his physical peak because he's been lifting weights and eating protein shakes and scrambled eggs and, doing all those things since he was 14, as this other kid who's 18 is just raw.
Yeah, I'll never forget Matt Flynn, who played a long time in the NFL, won a national title at LSU, was the backup to Jamarcus Russell at LSU. He was a really good high school quarterback and athlete, but his sophomore year, he had a competition. This is at Lee High School where Craig went, where he was not the starter. They had a kid named Ty Wright who ended up going and being drafted by the Chicago Cubs, who was a really good overall athlete too. Matt was a great baseball player. The whole thing you get in high school. But there was a little bit of a difference. Ty Wright had a little bit of he had a little shit in his neck.
Yeah.
And Matt was competitive, but he was not going to beat out Ty Wright. And during the summer between his sophomore and junior year, he started working out with a guy named Tim Powers, who now is in Hawaii, and it was this strength, agility, and quickness that you now see in every high school field house every summer. And it turned him into a star. He ended up being the starting quarterback. They went to the semifinals, and then, of course, he went to LSU, won a national title, and spent a lot of years in the NFL.
Made millions of dollars.
Because of that, his father was a former Baylor quarterback, Matt's father, and they paid for these workouts, and it made him, he went from a good player to his speed and quickness, like different level that became where he would run like the quarterback, what do you call it?
They're probably running options back then.
And he was just a bootleg, and he could outrun people down the sideline. That made him that way. One quick note. Steve Sarkisian has hired former Kentucky head coach Mark Stoops as a special assistant. He's not working anymore because he got fired at Kentucky, right? I'll never forget, to me, not criminal, that's the wrong word, but his overtime play calling against Texas in that game down near the goal line was like, not a fireable offense. He was on his way out, but that wasn't just...
When you go in to defend your job, it wasn't a good one.
That's one of those when your ego takes over. By God, we're going to jump over the top of this pile. Against UT's defensive front, no, you're not.
If I had told you 20 years ago that there would be a Stoops on staff at Texas.
That's right. How about
any
this?
Stoops?
How about this? Sarkisian thanked him, shook hands at the end of the game. I'm sure Stoops was pissed, and he said, hey, thanks for that overtime play calling. Hey, we'll be in touch with you if things don't work out here in Kentucky.
What's your consulting fee?
We will do this tomorrow, but Louisville's president, AD, and board sent out one of those white papers about college athletics, and we'll discuss that a little bit tomorrow. I'd never heard that term in my life, and I've heard it twice now since Friday.
Okay. Brandon, are you ready for the wheel?
Yep.
Okay. Let's spin that wheel.
All right, let's go to the polls. Here we go.
The first poll.
This is
trivia question. I'm sorry. Which Major League Baseball franchise names were almost used by early NFL teams? The Reds, Yankees, Pirates, or all of the above?
I think it's all the above.
I think it's all the above. Yeah, I think it's definitely all the above.
Let's see it, Brandon. Let's see the up.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I there was I knew the Yankees were, and I knew the Pirates were. I did not know about the Reds, but I just assumed. But yes, 1933 and 34, the Yankees in 1926 in the AFL and NFL from 27 to 29, and the Steelers began as the Pittsburgh Pirates for the first 7 years, and the NFL also had a Brooklyn Dodgers franchise from 1930 to 1943. These teams adopted their cities' MLB names or similar ones like Cubs, Bears to gain recognition in the league's early years.
Okay.
So I like that continuity, but now it's nice to have different things.
All right, this next one got a lot of play in the chat room.
Okay.
No, not this one. I must be thinking about one of the quizzes.
On March 2nd, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points. But can you guess which neutral site venue hosted the Philadelphia Warriors home game? Coney Island, the Astrodome, Caesar's Palace, or Hershey Park? I believe this is at Hershey Park.
Let me read this again. Philadelphia. Well, I do. No, I think it's Hershey Park. Yeah.
I think it's Hershey Park. All those other places are too far
There
away.
it is.
Boom.
We are getting to a point where our winning streak is Globetrotter-esque against the Washington Generals or whatever they called them.
Yeah. So there you have the explanation. I'm going to tell you, Adam Sandler, back in his stand-up days, had one of my favorite jokes of all. He still does stand-up, but his early stand-up days, and I've never forgotten this. He said, I don't do a lot of impressions, but I'm going to do 2 points for you. I'm going to do the impression of Wilt Chamberlain's coach the night he scored 100 points. It's, hey, everybody, make sure you get the ball to Wilt. Okay? Get the ball to Wilt.
Yeah. Keep feeding him.
Okay, this is Adam Sandler's impression of the coach on the other team. Who is guarding Wilt?
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Obviously nobody, and even if they were like under his armpits.
Yeah.
Will you be watching the World Baseball Classic starting tomorrow?
70% not on the radar. 30%, yeah, I'll watch some of it for sure. It's very fun, especially as they get down to the end. The Japan versus U.S. final the last time around was one of the most fun baseball games I've ever seen. And we beat Ohtani in the last part of it. We stuck it to Ohtani.
The Americans won the last one?
Well, I mean, they had that at bat where Ohtani started.
Yeah.
So, yes. So
All
I'm
right.
excited about that.
I said I didn't want to say no. So I'll be watching means I could watch it a little bit.
I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to have time to watch all of it.
If I see they get into it, and so it's not no, but I will watch it. Depending on what else I'm doing.
Unlike there's a team from Italy too.
This here got tons of play in the chat room. If you could only listen to one Beatles album forever, which is it? Abbey Road dominates with nearly half of the votes.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know. I picked the White Album.
Which of the songs were? You know me. I mean, I know Sgt. Pepper and the Sunshine Band or whatever.
The Lonely Hearts Club
KC and the Sunshine Band was in that album.
No, Sgt. Pepper and the Lonely Hearts Club Band. But yeah, I picked the White Album. It's actually the one I've listened to the most. Although I am not what you'd call like a huge Beatles fan, but that one has.
And I asked this question, Paul.
Yeah.
Which of those albums was Hey Jude?
I believe it's Abbey Road.
I was. Brandon, did you tell me that they were not on an album? That song was not on an album?
But yeah, the White Album has so many good songs on it. So let's see.
Why did they call it the White Album?
Because it was just.
I know it was. It's a sheath of white. Yep.
Although Abbey Road, honestly, like Come Together's on Abbey Road. Jeez.
You can't take it back. You've already.
No,
voted.
I said oh jeez.
Do we have
crap? I should have said Abbey Road. Here comes the sun. Here comes the Suns on Abbey Road. That's my favorite Beatles song.
All right, let's go to the wheel.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna have to get a sound.
The suspense is
we
killing
need we
me.
need that.
Yeah. Okay. Which TV sketch lives in your head rent-free? Key and Peele, Chappelle Show, Mad TV, SNL. This is not a totally fair question for me, Andrew, because there's so many of them. I love sketch comedy. I've done sketch comedy. Gosh. My favorite one of all time, though, from Saturday Night Live is, and a retired stockbroker sent me a mug for this, is Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer with Phil Hartman. It is one of it's so, like, the reason I like it is it's so simple in its premise. It's ridiculously simple in its premise. It's a TV show about a caveman who got thawed out and became a lawyer. And the joke is always like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when I go to a solar eclipse like the one I saw in Mexico City last year on vacation, I think, is the moon eating the sun? I don't know. I'm a caveman. And that's the joke. And it's so stupid and so silly, but it's so brilliant. I just love it. Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, my favorite thing ever.
No kidding.
I've
never heard of it before.
It's
okay.
Not,
is Sanford and Son on there?
Well, I mean, that's not a sketch. That's a sitcom. But the one I think that you like the Key and Peele football names thing.
I do.
Yeah, you like that one, don't you? Where the Hingle McCringleberry and all that.
I've never seen.
You've never seen that one? Okay.
I've never.
Well, I mean, you had us like
kind of sheltered in my life. We didn't like do things like
early SNL. None of that hit you.
I have never not
the
because
land
it's
shark,
too political or any other reasons or I never ever was a Saturday Night Live fan for some reason, and it doesn't mean it's not an unbelievable show, long time, but I just never.
No, Chappelle's show, I think, for the compact amount of time it was on 3 seasons, had some of the most amazing sketches ever. The Black White Supremacist is absolutely like the most dangerous thing I've ever seen on TV, and I can't believe he got away with it. It's so funny and so good. Monty Python. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a
my
movie,
older brothers used
but
to.
Monty Python's show does.
Yeah, the show.
Monty Python's show, the parrot. I mean, I could go through this forever. This was basically a question for me and me.
Well, apparently, because I haven't been able to answer it.
Yeah, I mean,
I would not have answered it because I didn't watch. Put the answers up or the question that poll up one more time, because I know about Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
I understand that. I had never watched it. I mean, literally. I don't even know what Key and P. It sounds like a nice restaurant. I know Dave Chappelle, but I've watched his stand-up comedy or his shows, his podcast or whatever it is on Netflix. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, yeah. But if you have not seen Chappelle's show, I would recommend going to watch it. It's even if you're not a sketch comedy fan, the first 2 episodes are just totally worth your time. All of it is, but
Thank you,
the
Andrew.
first 2 are groundbreaking.
Can we get a sounder for the wheel? Because I think that would help.
I think we can, yes.
All right. Brandon Rowe, thank you very much today. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Thanks to Andrew Valade. Craig should be back with us tomorrow. I'm David Smoak for Paul Catalina. Thank you for all of what you do, whether you watch us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, or right here on YouTube. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Good night.